All right, let's talk about something. We're going to dive into a really powerful and, yeah, maybe a pretty controversial theory about why so many relationships fall apart right after a huge life change, like having a kid. We're going to unpack a kind of blueprint that says maybe it's not about falling out of love, but about a predictable structural failure in the relationship itself.
I mean, you've seen this happen, right? A couple, totally in love, they have a baby, and it's supposed to be this amazing, beautiful new chapter. But then, slowly, you see them start to drift, and that new beginning somehow becomes the beginning of the end.
And you know how the story often goes from there, a painful breakup. And then the man seems to move on in a heartbeat, often with someone new, someone younger. But look, before we go any further, I want to be super clear. What we're doing here isn't about blaming anyone or pointing fingers. We're just exploring one very specific way of looking at this pattern through a really unique systemic lens.
So we're going to dig into this analysis from a source they call the architect. And what's so wild about this take is that it says the breakdown isn't a failure of love, it's not an emotional problem, it's a predictable failure of the system underneath the relationship. It's a totally different way of looking at it.
Okay, so what on earth is a systemic failure? Well, according to this idea, it's not just about, fighting more or feeling distant. It's much deeper. It's like the fundamental laws of the relationship, the energetic physics of it, just collapse. And the key is, if you want to understand why it collapsed, you have to go back and find the original glitch in the system.
So what's that glitch? The architect gives it a specific name, polarity inversion. And you really have to get this concept because everything that happens next, it all hinges on this one moment. It's the point where the entire energetic balance of the relationship gets flipped upside down.
Now let's get something super clear here, because this is the foundation for everything. When we say masculine and feminine energy, we are not talking about men and women. Not at all. These are just roles or archetypes. Think of it like a magnet. You need a North Pole and a South Pole for there to be any attraction, right? It's about that pull between two different complementary forces.
So the baby arrives, and bam! This is the trigger. The theory says that the incredible pressure of new motherhood, the hormones, the chaos, it can flip a switch in the woman, putting her into what's called a survival interface. Basically, to manage everything, she has to adopt a purely masculine energy. She becomes the CEO, the general, the project manager of the entire household, just to keep things from falling apart.
And here's where the system breaks. Let's walk through it. She energetically shifts from partner to mother. So now the man is facing one of two things. Either he's up against another masculine energy, which just leads to a power struggle, or he's facing a mother figure, and his system has a primal reaction to that. You don't want to be intimate with your mother. Either way, it's a total romance killer. The polarity is gone, the attraction flatlines.
So the system fails, the breakup happens. But what comes next is maybe the most fascinating part of this whole idea. Because the architect argues that after the split, the man and the woman go down two totally different and weirdly predictable paths. Their stories diverge in a huge way.
All right, let's look at the man's path. He often moves on fast, and everyone around him yells, "Midlife crisis!" But this framework sees it completely differently. It's not a crisis. It's a systemic correction. His internal system is just automatically and powerfully trying to fix the insane imbalance he just came from.
And it's not just about youth. It's about what that new energy does for him. It's like plugging a cord into the right socket. Boom! The polarity is instantly restored. With the new partner, his experience is an asset again. He's not treated like an incompetent child who can't do anything right. He gets to feel like a man again. For him, the system finds its balance. But for the woman, oh, it is a totally different story. She often gets stuck in what the architect calls the systemic trap. It's this deeply frustrating loop where she wants to find love again, but the very energy she's operating from is actually working against her.
This creates the attraction paradox, and it's a real head-scratcher. So she's still running on that masculine, get-it-done survival energy, right? Well, that energy literally repels the strong masculine men she says she wants. It's like trying to push the north poles of two magnets together. No way. So who does she attract? Men with a more passive, feminine energy. But then she gets frustrated with them for not leading, completely missing that her own energy is taking up all the leadership space in the room. It's a vicious cycle.
And this is where it can get really raw. The theory suggests that all the anger that gets pointed at the ex's new partner, it's often a form of projection. It's a way to avoid a harder truth. And this quote just nails it. It is easier to break the mirror than to look in it.
Think about what that really means. Hating the other woman is just easier than looking in that mirror she holds up. Because that new partner, she reflects all the softness, the playfulness, the receptivity that the woman herself had to sacrifice, that she had to lock away to survive the battle of her marriage and motherhood. And that's a seriously painful thing to have to look at.
Okay, so that's the trap. It sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? But is there a way out of it? Can you actually break these cycles? Well, the theory says yes. The architect calls it re-architecting. It's about consciously redesigning your own internal system so you don't just keep repeating the same patterns.
So for the woman, the work is to get out of that survival mode. That means shifting her focus from her head, which is all about control, lists, and logic, and dropping back down into her body, which is about feeling and intuition. She has to consciously take off the mother hat in her romantic life. And when she stops trying to run the whole show, it creates an energetic vacuum. And that space is what allows a masculine partner to finally step.
And what about the guy? Well, this is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Not at all. If he just runs to an easier relationship without learning the lesson, he is doomed to recreate the exact same problem later on. His job is to learn how to step up, how to provide that structure and safety before his partner feels forced to put on the armor and do it for him. He has to learn to lead the system, not just react when it breaks.
So when you put it all together, this framework just completely flips the script. It stops being a story about good guys and bad guys, victims and betrayers. Instead, the breakup becomes this almost impersonal thing, like a law of nature. It's just a system that was knocked way out of whack, trying desperately and clumsily to find its balance again.
And so I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. Is this whole thing just an interesting, abstract theory about how relationships work? Or is it maybe a mirror? A mirror that's asking each of us to take an honest look at the energetic role we're playing in our own lives and how it impacts the people we love. It's definitely something to think about.